Okay, so this is a pretty basic problem, but it's going to help us get to a point where we can do the more complicated ones. So I wanted to start with one that's really basic. And what I tell people is whenever you do a problem, always start with the end in mind. In other words, we're going to look at that last sentence, the question sentence, and find out what is it they want us to find. Milliliters per hour. I didn't really read it. I didn't read the problem. I just found the question mark and said, what do they want me to find? Oh, nearest milliliter per hour. So that means rounded to the whole number, right? So milliliter per hour. I physically write that on my paper and I box it. I don't write equals or anything like that because mathematically it doesn't make sense. I'm just going to write, that's my goal. That's my goal. The second thing I try to find is the order. What is it that they want? What is it that I'm being told I need to do? And what they tell me is, I need to give that patient 6 milliunits of Pitocin each minute. Let me back up for a second. Let's talk about this unit. It's really 2 units in one, milliliters per hour. We have a special name for something when it is a unit per unit time. In other words, milliliters per hour, milligrams per minute, meters per second. We call that a rate. This is a rate. It's a unit of rate. Well, probably what I want to start with is another rate. I don't just pick the first thing I see or the first thing that has milliliters in it. I look for the other thing that's like the unit that I'm trying to get. So since this is a rate, I'm starting with that. Plus it is my order, so it makes sense to start with what they tell you they want, the order. And that's milliunits per minute. All right, now I write that, but then I need to make a game plan. So I come down here, this is my game plan portion, all right? And what I mean by a game plan is, I somehow want to get from milliunits per minute to milliliters per hour. This is actually harder than I thought it was to begin with. But I can see that's where I'm starting, this is where I'm ending. Now I come up with my game plan. I start to ask myself, are there some things that I know that relate those two? And I start on the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to start on the bottom. I see, I just want to turn minutes into hours. And I have something that relates those two. I know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Or in other words, 60 minutes equals 1 hour. If I write an equals, I can take any equality like that and I can turn it into a fraction. So I could write that as 60 minutes over 1 hour or 1 hour over 60 minutes. It doesn't matter which one I use. All right, so I'm going to use that, okay? What else am I going to use? Well, how am I going to get to milliliters? And boy, it would be great if in the problem I had some relationship between milliunits and milliliters, but I don't. That stinks. However, what I tell people to do is start at the end and work your way backwards. So do I have something in here that tells me about milliliters? Why, yes, I do. I see that there are 30 units of Pitocin in 500 milliliters. So I'm going to write that this way. There are 30 units equals 500 milliliters. Just like 60 minutes equals 1 hour. These are 2 things I'm going to use. That means if I can go from units to milliliters because of this relationship. If I know the units, I can turn it into milliliters. But I'm starting with milliunits. This is a good thing. I got milliunits and units. Anytime you've got that prefix, milli or micro or kilo, I can always convert them using the universal fact that we know that there are 1,000 milli anything, so milliunits in 1 unit. We know that. That's universally true, it's always true. So I can see I'm going to have 3 steps. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to change milliunits to units, units to milliliters, and minutes to hours. And what I do is I don't do multiplication, I do a pig pen. And what I mean by a pig pen is I just draw that, like that. So there's a pen there that I keep my pigs in, right? Now, in the top or the bottom, Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to look and see what am I going to do first. Well, I see that I'm going from milliunits to units. Some of you might say, well, can I do minutes to hours first? Sure. You want to do that first? All right, let's do that first. So I see minutes. 60 minutes in 1 hour. That's my conversion I'm going to use. So I focus on what I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to get rid of the minutes. So I focus on this side of the equation. Well, I've got to put that in the opposite position. So since this is on the bottom, I need to put that on the top. That way my minutes will cancel. They've got to be in opposite positions. Top, bottom, bottom, top. They don't have to be diagonal. They can be anywhere in the top. We'll cancel with anywhere in the bottom. It's okay. So, but I've still got that. 1 hour. So I'm going to put that down here. 1 hour. Okay? Now what? Now I always cancel. Don't move on until you cancel. So I've really done this part of my trick. Done. Now I'm going to change milliunits into units. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to make another pig pen. Notice I'm not picking up my calculator yet. I don't do that till the end. Milliunits to units. 1,000 milliunits equals 1 unit. I'm trying to get rid of milliunits. So I'm going to focus on my milliunits side of this equation. 1,000 milliunits equals 1 unit. Cancel, cancel. Always cancel. Now, if I were to stop right now, I have units on top, hours on bottom. Units would be units per hour. Not quite what I want. I want milliliters per hour. But if I look back at my game plan, I have now converted it into units. I've gone from milliunits to units. I've got one more step. I just got to turn the units into milliliters. And I've already said I've got a way to do that. Here it is. 30 units equals 500 milliliters. So I focus on the units. I'm trying to get rid of units. So I put the units part of that equation on bottom. And the milliliters, whatever's left, 500 milliliters, is going to go on top. And I cancel. Units on bottom, cancel with units on top. And I'm left with milliliters over hours. That's what I want. That's my goal. I'm super happy. Now, for the easy part of this, all I'm going to do is multiply all the numbers across the top and divide by all the numbers on the bottom. A lot of people multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom and divide them. I don't like doing that because then I got to write stuff down. I got to keep track of stuff. It works. You can multiply everything across the top, get one number. Multiply everything across the bottom, get one number. Divide the top by the bottom. That works. I prefer to take it and do, and this is what it would look like if I typed it into my calculator. I'm going to do 6 times 60 times 500 divided by, divide. Now, I don't have to worry about the ones, that's why I skipped it. Skip the one there. Divide by 1,000. Divide by 30. Notice I never hit equals. I went 6 times 60 times 500. 6 times 60 times 500. Divided by everything that I see on bottom. Divide by 1, don't have to do that. Divide by 1,000. Divide by 30. Do that in your calculator, you're going to get the right answer. Now, if you want to multiply across the top, write that number down. Multiply across the bottom, write that number down. You'll get the same answer. So let's see what you get. What do you get when you do that? So if you do 6 times 60 times 500, then you go divide by 1,000, don't hit equals, just hit divide again, and by 30. And that hit equals at the end. What I like about that, if you do that, you get 6. Equals 6. And we were supposed to do it to the nearest milliliter per hour. In other words, 6 milliliters per hour, don't do any rounding. What I like about that is you don't have to hit equals, you don't have to write anything down, you don't have to do any pre-rounding. It gives you the answer at the end. Now, if you were to do it this way, 6 times 60 times 500, if you do that, you would get 180,000. And then if you did 1,000 times 30, you'd get 30,000. and then if you took 180,000 divided by 30,000, you would get 6. But in my mind, you are doing a lot of extra work that you don't need to do, because now you gotta write all those numbers. You gotta retype things in. If I just go 6 times 60 times 500, then divide by everything I see on the bottom each time, divide by 1,000, divide by 30, I get the right answer that way too. I think that's a lot easier. Do it the way that you feel most comfortable, but man, if you use this, it's gonna save you a lot of time and energy. All right, the other videos I'm hoping will be a little bit shorter. I wanted to just kind of go through the basics with you.